A few months ago, I had an opportunity to install and test out the new two-piece slotted rotors from Paragon Performance. I made a whole video on it, and I'll have a link down in the description if you want to check that out. Paragon's been making brakes for a while now, but only recently started doing Porsche parts, and they sent me a set of rotors to test out and share with you on the channel. They seemed like a really good, cost-effective alternative to some of the other competing two-piece slotted rotors out there. Unfortunately, at the time when I made the video, I only had enough time to install them and take a good look at them and test them out on the street. But now I finally had an opportunity to abuse them at the track and autocross, and that's what we're doing in this video. So as a quick recap, I swapped out the rotors on the car because my OEM ones started showing signs of cracks. They did have probably a few more track days in them, but I had the opportunity to put these rotors on, and that's what we did. My old rotors definitely seemed to be giving me some different kind of feedback. Sometimes they'd reach a heat level that I think they couldn't take anymore, and I could see the change in braking effectiveness. So I was looking forward to a change to see if that improved things. So I was able to catch a nice spring day out here at Sonoma Raceway. Out in the Sonoma Hills in the spring, the green hills are just beautiful, and Sonoma Raceway sits right in there. It was a great day to go to the track. Besides having fun driving, it's always nice to see some of your friends there, or just even people you've connected with on Instagram, and even some people that are viewers of the channel. Always nice to connect with them. The day wasn't too hot, so I didn't really get to abuse the rotors to a high heat level, but Sonoma does have some braking zones that take a lot of energy. Some from 118 miles an hour in my car down to 40. I think I do that about 2 to 3 times at Sonoma. So I try to brake just a little later and later to see how hard I can push the brakes. Now, as a quick recap, my car setup, I have the camber plates from Tarot sitting at about 3 degrees of camber front, 2.5 in the rear using the Tarot tow arms. I have a whole video on installing and talking about those as well. Link up here and down in the description. The tires are Nankang CRS. This is the second time I've had an opportunity to run these tires, and they're holding up really well. I will not be going back to the Falcon RT660s due to some delamination issues that I and others have faced. I basically had to throw out a set of almost new tires after they started separating at some seams. These are the 19-inch Apex SM10 wheels, and they've been doing great, of course, as well. As far as the brake pads go, that is probably our biggest determination of braking performance. I mean, rotors can only go so far. They are big circles of steel, but of course they need to be made well to handle the heat, to not warp or anything like that, or crack. And I really doubted that would ever be an issue with these brakes. Paragon's been doing it for a while. The pads I'm running on the car are the Advanced Friction Performance Club Sport pads. They were by suggestion of my local shop here, SP Motorsports. And the Club Sport pads are designed to be totally track ready, but also just fine on the street. They are a little soft when they're cold, but nothing dangerous. They do have an endurance pad that's meant for longer track visits, but for me, I've never run out of heat or energy with these pads. I like them a lot. They are comparable apparently to the Flirt DS 2500s, which I have not tried myself. So I had those on my OEM rotors, and I switched them to these rotors, and they took a little time, I think, to fully get bedded in. I actually thought I had fully bedded them in. I did the normal bedding process on the street. In fact, I did it twice to try to really get it there. But I'm thinking it wasn't quite there, and here's why. After the first session at Sonoma, only after a few laps, I could tell that the rotors were getting more deposits, and not really in a bad way. I was just picking up a slight change in braking, and then they looked like this. Lots of new deposits on there, but there was no vibration, no pulsation. This isn't giving me any bad effects, but it was just showing that I apparently had not heated them up enough to get them fully bedded out on the street, regardless of my attempts of doing it, in the recommended fashion. And since I've been to the track and put a couple hundred miles in the car, all the rotors look, consistent and even as far as the pad deposits go. You don't really see the deposits anymore because I think they are truly bedded in. Overall, I had a great day at Sonoma. It didn't get too hot. I think it got into maybe the lower 70s, which can feel slightly warm out here. But then later in the day, we got a little bit of sprinkling of rain, which is always nice to just, test your skills a little bit, work you into the wet conditions. I was surprised that the car and these tires were doing just fine as the track started to get just lightly sprinkled out. The best part of the day is I totally set a new personal best. Now, they did recently repave the track. We may have been one of the first groups to run on the newly paved track, but I'm absolutely sure that that new personal best is from these new rotors. Okay, no, that's not possible, but they did not inhibit me from getting a new personal best. They did great, folks. The rotors showed no sign of, getting overheated, and I'm not surprised. Remember, these rotors are a little heavier than OEM and some of the competing two-piece slotted rotors out there, and with that comes a little bit more ability to absorb heat and hopefully to dissipate it as well. And so I found no issues there. Now, yes, that is some extra unsprung mass that you're working with, but I didn't really notice a difference, and I definitely don't mind, especially the fact that these rotors come in quite a bit cheaper than, say, gyro discs or something. And then when you get around to changing the rings, they're also even cheaper. So I'm so far very happy with them, at least how they performed at Sonoma Raceway. I also had an opportunity to do one autocross session out in the heat. I think it got almost to 100 degrees out at Crow's Landing here in Northern California, the best autocross site there is. If you live anywhere around here and you do autocross, you've got to make an event to Crow's Landing. I was out with the Golden Gate Lotus Club. Porsche goes out there, SCCA, American Autocross. There are lots of groups to go with, but Golden Gate Lotus Club is an awesome group, and we got lots of runs, and it's been almost a year since I autocrossed. The rotors, of course, held up just fine. I saw no adverse effects from them, and braking was as expected during autocross. Definitely these pads don't do so well at the beginning of autocross sessions until they warm up. As you look at the rotors now, you can see that there has been some bronzing on the areas where the pad doesn't touch. That is not rust from water or washing, folks. That was purely bronzing that happened after the track day. So around the hat there and in the slots, you've got sort of a goldish color, which is exactly what you see in, say, the GT4's muffler, as it gets used. And that could probably be brightened up again with the proper phosphate chemical. I know that that's a new thing that I've been looking to try out to brighten up my muffler that you can totally see from the rear end of the car. And it would probably change these rotors, but they might just come back again with that bronzing. I don't fully understand the process of what's going on there with the metal. Maybe you'd like to comment and tell us more. So you might be asking, would I buy these rotors in the future? And that I can't tell you for sure because I really have had only limited experience. I'm gonna check back with you, of course, after maybe a year and a half, I'm guessing, I'll get out of these rings. And once it's time to change, I'll let you know. Am I gonna go with more Paragon or am I just gonna try something else? I've really had a good time experimenting and getting experience with other products. For example, tires. I've tried, I think, 3 different tires for this car. And although these CRSs are great, I do look forward to trying another tire just to see where I wanna be and start dialing things in over time. And I may go the same way with the rotors and pads, but for now, I'm looking forward to running these Paragon rotors. So if you're considering some 2-piece slotted rotors for your Porsche, definitely consider the Paragons. At the lower price point, I think it's worth it. Sometimes going a little cheaper isn't a good idea and you don't get as much effectiveness or product quality, but in this case, so far, I think it's okay. And of course, I'm gonna touch base with you later on about it. So in the meantime, just keep watching. I appreciate your views. Go ahead and hit the like button, consider subscribing, and hit the bell to be notified of future Porsche content. Thanks so much for watching the Jeff Yolney channel. We'll see you next time.